In 1914, World War I broke out. People were enthusiastic about joining the army, and many men volunteered to fight for their country. In total, over 65 million people were sent to fight, 8 million of which died, leaving many families full of sorrow. But the war was not fought solely on the fronts and in the trenches by men and machine guns. It was also fought by the millions of people who stayed at home. Aiming to make World War I a total war, governments changed civilians' lives by persuading them to work hard and give up certain luxuries in order to help the soldiers fighting for their country. The concept of total war engaged civilians to help grow the economy of their country by creating materiel and giving money and products to the state. While the USA technically remained neutral until the later stages of the war, it took part in a very profitable materiel trade with France and Britain. Due to this trade, more money was put into circulation in the US, allowing the economy to grow. A lot of jobs were created during this war, and it was because of this that a lot of African Americans migrated from the South to the North in search of employment opportunities. During the war, unemployment basically vanished. Through propaganda, civilians were encouraged to help the soldiers fighting for them. In the USA, posters around cities told them to buy war bonds to help their country fund the war, and due to more food being needed to keep both the country and the soldiers fed, households were encouraged to grow backyard victory gardens to help grow food for their country. On the other hand, due to poor infrastructure, Russia had difficulties feeding her people and her soldiers, resulting in the Tsar falling out of favor with the people. In the US, total war employed millions of previously unemployed civilians, making them work hard, but in turn improving the national economy. As the war continued, more and more men were drafted into the army, resulting in jobs previously done by men falling into the hands of women, changing the way society looked at them. They worked in factories, became more involved with government, and worked in hospitals treating wounded soldiers. For example, the Saffron Walden Essex Military Hospital was open continuously from the beginning of the war to the end and was never empty. Women built war machines that were used at the front and worked very hard, changing the way society looked at women for a short period of time. When soldiers returned, they took back their jobs, resulting in the women's work rate falling to that of pre-war times. It was because of these reasons that women were seen as more powerful and influential during the time of war, and afterwards led the women's suffrage movement of the 1920s to gain back the positions they had during the war. National governments restricted the consumption of food and drink in hopes of improving their chances of succeeding in the war. Due to German submarine warfare, British food supplies through trade from their colonies were getting destroyed. To combat this, the British government introduced rationing. African colonies were hit hard by the war as they had to export a lot of food for the mother country and were forced to sell food at low prices. However, rationing greatly improved the nutrition of the poor in the mother country. The British government was worried that women were spending too much time drinking in pubs, decreasing the efficiency of their production. Lloyd George, a British politician at the time, told the Shipbuilding Employers Federation that Britain was fighting Germans, Austrians, and drink, and as far as I can see, the greatest of these foes is drink. As a result, the Defense of the Realm Act restricted the times at which alcohol could be drunk and sold. Similarly, in the Russian Federation, Tsar Nicholas II outlawed the production and sale of vodka. This decision had a negative effect on the Russian people, as they simply began making their own and disliked the Tsar even more. In hope of winning the war, governments engaged their respective countries in total war. Women worked hard in factories, drastically improving their stature in the public eye. Citizens lent money to states through war bonds, and were forced to cut down on their food and drink consumption due to rations and new laws. Citizens' life at the home front changed drastically during the war, all in hope to end up as victor of the Great War.